Welcome to the complete animation of Suki Lane from Illumination Animation's masterpiece, Sing 2. Now, a lot of people dismiss Illumination outright. They look at, oh, it's the studio that just cranks out Despicable Me after Despicable Me and Minions movies galore. And that is true. That is the studio that makes those movies. For good or ill, those are the movies that this studio makes a lot of. But you know what? The studio also made Sing 2 and Migration. And those are some of my favorite animated movies of all time. And so the way I see it is, in order for Illumination to make incredible movies like Sing 2 and Migration, they have to pay the Minions tax. They have to pay their dues by putting out, the movies that a bunch of people really don't like, but sell gangbusters in order for them to make movies like Migration, where Migration, people were ecstatic that it was starting to break even. I think by the end of its run, Migration had been a modest financial success, which compared to the, Minions and Despicable Me movies is barely anything, but it shows that the studio has some real passion in it. They can tell original stories. They can tell stories in, worlds that aren't all the franchise. Because if you know anything about modern media, it's like the IP is everything. Getting that franchise that will sell gangbusters no matter how many entries you have in it. And I am not saying that the Despicable Me movies and the Minion movies are bad. I haven't seen them, and I refuse to judge anything I haven't seen. But I do know that I dislike Minions basically everywhere they show up, so it'll probably take a lot of doing for me when I actually do watch the movies. But I really dislike it when people speak poorly of a movie they've never even seen. And I especially dislike it when people are like, oh, I saw such and such YouTuber's video about this movie, and here's what they had to say. It's like, are you incapable of creating your own opinions? Which is one of the reasons why I basically don't watch all the YouTubers who review animated content now. I know that I am going to eventually watch all of it, and I'm going to judge it for myself. Now, when I first saw Sing 2, it never even registered that this Suki Lane character had a name. That's one of the problems I have with things. I am really bad with names of people in real life, and also often pretty bad with names of characters in movies. So it wasn't until I made my complete animation of Portia Crystal that everybody was like, oh, you should also do Suki Lane and Nushi. And I was like, what the heck is a Nushi? But then, I looked it up. I was like, oh, so the dancing, Lynx girl that Johnny got to be friends with, that is Nushi. And the secretary lady, that's Suki Lane. So now I know. I think that a big problem is just movies don't often repeat names that often. It's like, oh, here is this character's name, sort of mumbled in the first minutes of the movie, and then they never repeat the name again. It's like, how is someone like me supposed to even remember these names? So Suki Lane, she's got an interesting design. Sing does a lot of really tall characters. Suki is really tall. Portia's really tall. Nushi, she's not very tall, but very skinny. And I think it's pretty good. I do like how they do faces a bunch of the time in the Sing movie, but sometimes they kind of look like just Secret Life of Pets faces slapped onto anthropomorphic bodies. And I guess it makes sense because it's the same studio. Speaking of Secret Life of Pets, I saw those movies once. I gotta watch those again. I need to watch them again to form a proper opinion. Thanks for watching.